What is going on, everyone? This is Ninja Geek here, and we are bringing you another episode of The Walking Dead Thoughts and Reviews. We'll be back just in 1 second. And we are back bringing you some Black Ops 2 gameplay, of course with some pictures for the series to go along with that. So let's get right into this series, or into this episode, I mean to say here, with the episode being called Strangers, and we're going to talk all about what happened and my thoughts on it. So first off, they're walking down, I guess, kind of the street, but they're still in the wooded areas, and they did that slow motion effect, which actually looked really cool. Could go well for some montages, hint, hint. But, yeah, so they do that, and then when as they're like walking around, they just hear a voice scream. They go help someone. It turns out to be this guy named Gabriel. He's a pastor at a church, so he believes in the Lord and all that stuff. He survives himself in a church, goes scavenging out for food and stuff like that. So that's basically his background on about how this all happened within this 2 or 3 year time of when this apocalyptic world came to be. That's what he's been doing. And that's basically that. And then he leads you back to his church so that you could see all about this church, about like how he's staying there, and that's how you find out all about this stuff about him and what he's been doing. So you go see this church. Rick doesn't trust this guy, so he has a talk with Carl about, trusting different people, about like why you trust him or whatever like that. And to be honest, and here's where my opinion comes in, I don't trust this guy. I mean, in a world like this that we've been in at this point for about 2 years now, I wouldn't trust anyone that I see, even if they're, believe in God or whatever. It just doesn't matter. Anyone could dress up, he could, for all we know, he could have been a regular person before, and now he could make believe that he's a pastor just because, like no one could even tell what he is. He could have found those clothes somewhere and slapped them on, and oh yeah, I've been a pastor, I believe in the Lord and all this stuff, and he could have been a complete lie like that. So you never know with people like that in this world now, when you're talking about in the Walking Dead world. So, so Rick makes him go along with him, and they go to this sewer area, not really a sewer, but they go to this area where there's supposed to be extra food because they wanted to help clear it out so they could get more food, obviously, because you need food to survive. So they go there, and they had, there was a giant hole in the floor. Gabriel didn't want to go down there. He's obviously scared. He hasn't really, I don't even think he's killed any of them. Telling by the way obviously he said that he hasn't, but telling by the way that he's frightened by them, he hasn't killed any or even humans before, or people. And so, so that's basically that. And then they go down in the sewer, they start clearing it out. Gabriel gets scared, he hides in a corner, and then there's this one point where Bob is like going for something across. I'm not even really sure what he was trying to get, but he was obviously reaching for something, and a zombie comes out of the water and almost gets him killed, but luckily he was able to pull it away in time that he didn't end up dying. But here's where a lot of speculation comes in, and here's where I've been like talking to different people and seeing it all over online and stuff like that. Was Bob actually bitten there? We're going to talk about this a little bit later too, coming up from at the end of this episode too, but was actually Bob bitten there? Because as we can tell later on, he's not really all that happy a lot, even though like around Sasha or whatever, he's just like kind of moping around and all that stuff. Like why is he crying outside later? We're going to get into that, but anyways, so then they head back, and Carl finds some things in the back of the church that he makes Rick look at, like someone was actually trying to get into the church. So this makes Rick not even believe Gabriel more, and then basically, so Rick has a talk with Gabriel, and he's talking about if you do something to threaten me or my family that's out there, he will kill him without any hesitation. So basically stuff like that. And then it cuts to the scene where this is where it starts getting interesting. The whole episode was really good. I thought it was a really nice, calm, set-back episode. A lot of people think that there has to be action in The Walking Dead, like, oh, it's about zombies, so every episode has to be about action. But, every episode is different from one another. And the first episode that we got from Season 5, which I reviewed last week, that one was all action-packed. It was just complete action. There wasn't really a moment where there wasn't action in that. But then you got these episodes that are also really really good, that tell a very good storyline, and so that's basically what we have here. So later on within the episode, we get to see Carol like out by the car that they were out before when she went with Daryl, and we're wondering why she's like doing something to the car, and then Daryl eventually comes out to meet Carol, and they see a car drive by, and they get very suspicious, and Daryl thinks that it happens to be Beth. It was a different kind of car than the one that she was actually taken in season 4, so but it could have been Beth, and that's what Daryl was worried about. So they're gone for the rest of the episode. You don't see them come back. They're chasing. Potentially they're chasing after this car that went by. And Daryl knocked out the headlights so that they wouldn't see them following it, but they wanted to chase this car. So now the group is kind of split up, because then after that, Bob goes outside, and like we mentioned before, he starts crying, and then something smacks him in the head, and we're all like startled. This is like maybe like 10 minutes or 5 minutes even before the episode ends. So we're like, what's gonna happen now? Like there's, it's obviously gonna go over into the next episode, and now we're gonna be all worried. So Bob wakes up, he's all fine, and we think that he's fine, and then he wakes up with Gareth and his group from Terminus, and last week in my episode predictions, I said that, Gareth, I don't think that he was going to be a main enemy, in the gist of things, I don't think that he was going to be the enemy that comes back, but then, after thinking about it, also, I said in the video that, that within the story, there's not really much more of an enemy to be found, unless they find another person, but there's not really another enemy besides Gareth that you could think of. Obviously the governor's dead, so there's only Gareth, so I pictured that he would have came back, and I was true that he did come back. As we can see, he's being an enemy within this now. I don't know how long it's going to last for, obviously, but then at the end, we get to see how Gareth and his group, like they said that they're not going to kill him, they weren't going to kill him from the start, and then they look, and Bob's leg is just completely gone. They're cannibals, we know it now. Obviously we had some hints before that Terminus was a cannibalistic, or stuff like that. And now we have the complete 100% truth answer that that's what they do. Kind of weird. Like, if you were in that situation, would you eat another person because you were hungry? Probably not. People are people, and they're meant to survive. So if you're looking for food, then, you would go out and look for food, even if it was just like squirrels or something like Daryl does. Like Daryl hunts squirrels. That's hunting. If you're killing, not really killing, but if you're cutting off people's legs and eating them, that's kind of gross. Obviously in today's society, that would be murder, even though, let's say they kept the guy alive, that would be just wrong. I think you would actually go to jail for that, but, like, if you're in the Walking Dead society, that's just completely, disgusting. It's just, to a point, it's just where, you just don't want that to even happen. So Bob's leg, I think it's his left leg, I believe. It looked like the right one, so yeah, it was his left leg to his side. Is completely gone now, and it showed them eating them, like right here in this picture. Eating his leg. Oh my gosh. And then it just, that's basically the end of the episode. And then we got another sneak peek within the Talking Dead that showed Sasha going out by somewhere. She was by herself in the woods looking through her scope. And she saw a zombie, so I don't know what's going to happen with that. That's another sneak peek. So obviously they're going out looking for this because they know that something either must have happened to Bob after that. Maybe they did end up killing him, or maybe they're just like they took him somewhere else to keep him hostage because Gareth didn't want to run into Rick. Because if Gareth ran into Rick, it didn't look like Gareth's group had lots of dudes left, to be honest. It looked like maybe they had, I'd say 5, maybe 10 at most. Rick, with his gun skill and with, his people, if Rick found out that Gareth was around, he would obviously want him dead because he wanted to go back for Gareth in the last episode, and the group basically said no because you're just going to risk our lives, and they ended up not going back. But, if Rick gets a chance, he absolutely wants to kill Gareth, and I would totally do that. And then we have another situation on our hands, which Rick doesn't really want to go to Washington, and then later on in the episode they decide to. So I say that they should should go to Washington, which is, my opinion, that they should go to Washington to try and at least get somewhere and try and cure this thing. But then now you have Gareth coming back and ruining it all, and on top of that, Daryl and Carol are now gone. So this episode was, perfectly, it would seem like it was going to be a nice, calm episode, and then towards the end, we get all this stuff just jammed down our throats at like the last 10 minutes. It was so epic, but at the same time, it was like so shocking about how basically like 3 different things happened. Daryl and Carol went out because they saw a car go by. Bob is basically gone. I mean, they have to worry about getting to Washington. They have to care for Judith. They have to get to Washington, and then they have to obviously worry about Gareth now, which Rick or anyone else doesn't know about at the moment right now. So that is basically the end of the episode. My thoughts are that it's another great episode. So far, season 5 is starting out really well. I think it's starting out better than Season 4 did, to be completely honest, but that's just my opinion. Leave your opinions on this episode in the comments below, and I'll see you on my next episode of this, whatever it happens to be. I'm Ninja Geek. I'll see you on whatever my next video happens to be. I'm out. Peace.